pay attention to the street, the front yard of the home, and you'll see to the left side of the front yard in the corner, there'll be a car. It's the Lexus that we've spoken about, the defendant's Lexus.
And we're really asking you specifically to consider the distance between that second floor front window and the front lawn.
Why not go on the view?
I don't ever want to go back to 34 Fairview.
34 Fairview Road, front and center in defendant Karen Read's retrial. The jury going to visit the crime scene. And this morning, we're joined by a true crime journalist who did an independent investigation into what happened there. Plus, questions still remain after one of Jeffrey Epstein's most vocal accusers, Virginia Giuffre, dies by suicide. This after she vowed that it would never happen. Also this hour, fears of a New England serial killer on the loose after multiple bodies have been appearing across 3 different states. We've got an insider from Rhode Island weighing in. Plus, we've got brand new details revealed with one of the surviving housemates the night of the Idaho student murders. Could that tip the scales of justice in the trial of defendant Brian Kohberger? It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Monday morning, my friends. Welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. I missed you over the weekend. I hope you had a great one. Now let's start the week off right. We got a tremendous show planned for you with sensational guests. So let's get started. Grab that cup of coffee. It's time for my opening statement. Diddy says no deal. Federal prosecutors offering Sean Diddy Combs a plea agreement, and he rejected it. So that tells me either he's innocent, just like he's presumed to be under the law, that he didn't commit the crimes he's accused of, or he's confident that the government can't prove them. Or maybe it's both. He didn't commit them, and therefore the government can't prove them. 2 weeks from today, his trial will begin, and the legal battle will be epic. You know, while much of the case is in question, one thing is for sure. The judge has ruled that the video of Combs beating Cassie Ventura will come into evidence. And that right there might tip the scales of justice for the jury. Remember, Ventura will be a government witness against her former boyfriend. It was her civil lawsuit that seems to have spawned the criminal investigation. There are 4 alleged victims listed in the indictment, and prosecutors are seeking to protect the identities of the other 3. May 5th, they'll start picking that jury, and on the 12th, it all starts. And that is when we will find out together if Sean Combs really is the bad boy that he always claimed to be. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
I came up from behind her, and I jumped on her. I tackled her, and I stabbed her.
Do you know how many times you did it?
19.
In Wisconsin, we've got Morgan Geyser with a review hearing this morning. Now, this is to discuss the plan for her conditional release from a mental institution. You'll recall she stabbed her classmate to please the fictional character Slender Man. That hearing is going to start up at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. In Florida, we've got a brand new trial for you kicking off here at Court TV. The fatal family birthday trial. Defendant is Alexander Del Toro. This guy's accused of manslaughter after the fatal shooting of his mother, Cindy. Now, this happened at a birthday party, and he is claiming self-defense. Also in Florida, there's a resentencing case for Troy Victorino and Jerome Hunter. That begins today. They were both found guilty of murdering 6 people during an argument about getting their Xbox back in 2004. These defendants are being resentenced because the death penalty laws have changed in Florida, as you know, my friends. And now, let's get to your top story. It's week number 2 of defendant Karen Read's retrial. The defense's accident reconstruction experts are expected to testify outside of the jury's presence. This is all about a determination by the court as to whether they will be able to testify, what will come in, what will stay out. So it's all still up in the air, largely, as you know, because much of the communications were held back, and the court wasn't given the full story by the defense with these two. They lied to the court and said they were independent, unpaid experts, and the judge found that they were not, and that was a deliberate misrepresentation. So we'll see what happens, as the prosecution is still saying that they're holding back more communications with these guys. These are the two ARCA witnesses you see on your screen. They were tremendous witnesses last time for the defense. Now, the other big thing that happened on Friday, the jurors were left to think about their visit to 34 Fairview Road, where they were able to see the spot where Officer John O'Keefe's body was found in the snow. They got to also see the alleged murder weapon, defendant Karen Read's big black Lexus SUV. Court TV's crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson was there.
All right, so part of the jury view involves seeing the SUV, which is the alleged murder weapon in all of this. Jurors were instructed to pay close attention to the bumper, to the light, and to the top of the car. They also took note of the flagpole right over here on 34 Fairview and the front of the house in relationship to the upstairs windows.
So what did the jury learn from that jury view? And what is going to happen with these ARCA witnesses? Is it going to be like it was the first time around? Or is there a little bit of stench on things because of the lies that were told? Let's bring in our guest. I'm so pleased to have on the program this morning a very highly regarded member of the true crime community, investigative journalist, author, and podcaster. He did the podcast 34 Fairview Road. M. William Phelps is back on the program. And we've got heavy-hitting criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Mario Gallucci here as well. Good morning to you, gentlemen. Let's start with the scene in 34 Fairview Road. M. William Phelps, you went into this podcast knowing nothing about the case, just totally independent, not working for either side, to try to find out what happened at 34 Fairview Road. What impression were you left with after doing all of the interviews? And there were many. I know there were over 100 interviews that you did. What impression were you left with, please?
That this is a very simple case of alleged DUI, hit and run, murder. And it was turned into a fiasco by a conspiracy. I mean, that's really the case in a nutshell. When we look at the actual evidence, the hard evidence, we see exactly what happened. And I'm glad kind of the jury went to the scene, because when you're at the scene, as I was, and you're there, it's a lot different from seeing pictures of it and just seeing documents describing the scene.
I'm glad to hear you say that. No, that's okay. How was it different, if you would tell us, please, Matthew? Like for you, what were the things?
Well, it's a lot further than it looks in the picture. The front door, the side door, the window, to the flagpole, to the fire hydrant. And I might say that something kept nagging me, and it still nags me to this day, about that fire hydrant and the wound on John O'Keefe's head. I don't know. They couldn't swab the fire hydrant, I was told, because of all the snow and the wetness. So they couldn't get anything off of it. But I don't know. The distance between the road and that front and the window and all of that is a lot farther away than it seems in the pictures.
That's really interesting to hear you say that, and that makes sense, and that would be helpful to the state, because they've often criticized, the defense has often criticized members of the household for not hearing anything. But if it's far, and we know the winds were howling, witnesses have already said it was hard to hear because of the blizzard. Julie. Right, people are sound asleep. Exactly. The fire hydrant, that's an interesting theory too. Do you think perhaps John O'Keefe could have hit his head on it? Is that what you were wondering?
Yeah. I mean, because I'm going back to her testimony in Dateline, when she says, I clipped him. He didn't look mortally wounded as far as I could see. Could I have done something that knocked him out? Well, if she clipped him and he swung around and he hit his head on that fire hydrant and then stumbled onto the lawn and fell down, it would answer for the injury on the back of his head, which when you look at it, it looks like it could be the lip of a fire hydrant, you know? I just, I don't know, it keeps nagging at me that, you know, his head hit that fire hydrant or a rock or something like that.
Or maybe, yeah, that's a good point. It could have been something, the ground may not have been even. That's a really good point. Maybe there was a rock or something on the surface that, right. I know what you're saying. That's something certainly to watch for when we hear from the medical experts. Matthew, thank you for that. Mario Gallucci, I want to talk to you about this mess with these ARCA witnesses that didn't have to happen. These guys were outstanding for the defense last time, arguably their best witnesses. And they caused a problem for themselves in not being honest with the court. And now the Commonwealth is still saying they're still not being honest in so much as turning over all of the communications that the judge ordered. So today, out of the jury's presence, as you know, there's going to be a voir dire, and I'm sure lots of arguments. I want you to talk to our jurors about our audience, our viewers, about the seriousness of not turning over discovery. In your world, how bad is that when lawyers don't do that when they're court ordered to, Mario?
Good morning, Julie. It's always an issue. You know, defense attorneys jump up and down all of the time saying, prosecutor hasn't given us this, the prosecutor hasn't given us this, because we want to see every piece of evidence. Well, just as we're entitled to every single piece of evidence, the prosecutor is also entitled to every piece of evidence that we find. So in this case, ARCA was originally hired by the government to investigate the police conduct in this case. And now we're finding out that they were paid about $24,000 by the defense, although the defense is saying they weren't paid until after the trial and that they were hired after the trial. So there's going to be a hearing today to determine whether or not there was going to be an issue with what was done by the defense and whether the jury is going to hear from them. And if the jury is going to hear from them, will they be allowed to hear the fact that there was a problem with the evidence being turned over by the defense? The prosecution could have a field day with them on cross-examination. Who paid you? Why were you paid? You were originally a government witness. How did you all of a sudden become a defense witness? At the first trial, you testified favorably to the defense. Now all of a sudden they're paying you to come here for the second trial. It creates a myriad of issues.
I know, it really does. Mario, thank you so much for that. That's something really big today we're going to pay close attention to. And William Phelps, I know we're going to have to let you get on with your day in a couple of minutes. So before we let you go, I wanted to circle back to something that you shared in your investigation and doing hundreds of witness interviews, going to the scene, all the research, and not for anybody, just to get to the truth for your listeners. You mentioned finding that there was a conspiracy. Is it the conspiracy that Karen Read is saying exists to frame her for a homicide, or was it a different conspiracy that you uncovered?
There's only one conspiracy, and that is between Aiden Kearney and Karen Read and David Yannetti and Alan Jackson to set out this propaganda machine on the public and conflate and confuse and conflict people and turn this into the cliched circus. And I might say, Julie, that something that angers me and something that upset me was last week when David Yannetti was questioning a guy, a firefighter for 20 years who has saved lives, who has run into houses that are burning, who has done all these heroic things in his life. And David Yannetti's treating this guy as if he's committed a crime. You know, the condescending tone, the loudness, you know, yelling at this guy, the anger. This guy's an EMT, he's a firefighter. And this is what this defense team does. They turn everybody who's a witness against Karen Read into a villain. And I'm tired of it. It's just way too much. This is a simple case. Karen Read and Turtle Boy, Aiden Kearney, they're the ones who committed this conspiracy to get out word that everybody's corrupt, everybody's lying but them. And it's just, I hope it all comes out in the second trial. I'm just so exhausted from all of this, to be honest, you know.
Right. I'm with you. I'm with you, Matthew. I'm sick and tired of it too, and it already is coming out. Hank Brennan brought down that house of cards some weeks back, and it hasn't gotten any better for them. It's only going to get worse because we know there can be another grand jury presentment now that they've got all the factual information they need to present to see if there was any collusion between the two of them that would substantiate charges. Excellent insight from you. Again, the podcast is 34 Fairview Road. That's just one of many tremendous things that William Phelps has done. Check it out. Matthew, thank you for coming on the program, making time for us. We'll look forward to having you back very soon.
My pleasure.
Take good care.
It's always good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mario's coming with us. We want you to do the same, please. Still ahead.
And tell me exactly what's going on. One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night and she not wake me up. Okay. Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night.
More is being revealed about what the surviving housemates did on the night of the Idaho student murders. And one of Jeffrey Epstein's accusers suddenly dies over the weekend. The many questions looming this morning after Virginia Giuffre's apparent suicide.
Karen Read a killer girlfriend?
She's guilty.
Or the scapegoat in an elaborate cover-up?
Karen Read was framed!
Karen Read is accused of murdering her police officer boyfriend.
Defendant stated repeatedly, I hit him, I hit him. She may end up taking the stand. Her first trial ended with a hung jury. They haven't proven anything.
Will a jury finally agree on a verdict?
We know who did it.
The Karen Read murder retrial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
Welcome back. Now for what's trending in true crime. Prominent survivor of Jeffrey Epstein's sex crimes, Virginia Giuffre, has died by suicide. This according to her family. Her death confirmed in a statement released by the family on Friday. Police finding the 41-year-old unresponsive at her home in Australia. She was later pronounced dead at the scene. Her family saying in part, quote, despite all the adversity she faced in her life, she shone so bright. She will be missed beyond measure. In 2019, Giuffre publicly alleged that Epstein forced her to have sex with his friends when she was as young as 17 years old. She claimed that included Prince Andrew, who she's seen here in this picture alongside with and Ghislaine Maxwell is looking on in the background too. The prince has always denied the allegations. Virginia Giuffre tweeted in 2019, and this tweet has resurfaced in the wake of her death. Take a look at this. She was saying that she was in no way suicidal. Now, police are saying that her death is not being treated as anything suspicious at this time. But we're asking this morning, are there any lingering questions about Giuffre's apparent suicide? Let's talk about it. I want to bring back in attorney Mario Gallucci and welcome in attorney Tommy Pope and criminologist Dr. Debbie Goodman. Good morning to you all. Dr. Debbie, to you first, please. What lingering questions do you have this morning?
Good morning. I think the case, Julie, is just a sad ending to a life of Miss Giuffre that was really complicated and complex. So we know and understand the sadness, of course, that she endured being a victim of sex trafficking, sexual abuse, and rape. And yet she exhibited such strength and courage and resilience throughout her young years in being a prominent voice of the Me Too movement and helping other victims navigate through the criminal justice system as she did from both the criminal and civil side. So when it comes to suicide, Julie, there's always a lot of questions, unfortunately, many of which go unanswered by family members and friends. And of course, the first question is why and what led to this. Based on what we know during her most recent years, it appears as if she was distraught about the separation from her husband and potentially custodial issues involving her children. And we do understand suicide. We hope that if any of the viewers are struggling, there are hotlines, a national hotline set up for those who need assistance, 988, and we would encourage certainly those to seek help who are in distress.
Dr. Debbie, yes, thank you for that. Tommy Pope, to you next, please. What questions do you have this morning?
You know, I agree with the doctor. It really goes to what's behind the scenes. You know, our pastor one time said, we all see each other's highlight reel. You know, we all see the best of folks, and you don't know, you know, certainly she had a traumatic life, but some people are resilient and can get through it, and some people get to a spot. From personal experience, I tell you, I used to think people that were depressed just needed to cheer up, and that doesn't work. It's just something internal, and you have to battle. And, you know, I battle with depression, but people, you know, always see the fun, Tommy, and don't realize that, you know, it's a battle. And so the things she's faced, I've led a blessed life and still wrestle with those issues. And so the things she's faced, it's easy to see how it can slip there. I hope forensically law enforcement did the things they need to that can kind of put a cap on any of this conspiracy talk. And, you know, because that's not healthy for the family if it's not accurate.
Right, so true. And Tommy, thank you for sharing that. Thank you. That really helps so much. You know, people see you and admire you so much. You're such a successful public figure and have done so much in your career. And thank you for sharing that. And I once heard a mental health professional describe depression as like the common cold in the mental health world. It's that common among people, and it needs to be talked about more so that everyone realizes we're all dealing with something. There's always a reason for us to take care of our mental health. I always say therapy is one of my favorite things in the world. That being said, Virginia Giuffre, the struggles that must have been going on privately, it's fair to say must have been pretty bad to get to this point. And we can see why. I mean, as young as 17, she was alleged to have been forced into this child sex trafficking ring by Epstein and Maxwell. Mario Gallucci, I'm curious this morning, what questions you have when we think about Virginia Giuffre, her life, and it seems with that Epstein case, like not everything has been answered. It's very unsatisfying when we think about how we don't have a lot of finality with it in the way of justice.
So, I mean, this poor woman had her innocence taken from her at a very young age, and she went on to become a warrior. I mean, she was basically the face of the Epstein Giselle trial, and then Epstein killed himself. So now she never really had any closure to that. Although Maxwell was eventually convicted, she went on to become a warrior, as I just said, and she had a beautiful life. She moved to Australia. She was married for over 2 decades, and she had 3 beautiful children, from what I understand. It looked like she was really doing well and overcoming everything. And then abruptly, months ago, she moves away from that life. She moves into a small town. She's arguing that she's having parental alienation issues with her husband. So it all catches up, and I just feel horrible for this woman because she truly was a warrior. I mean, she was a warrior when you think about it, and for her life to end so tragically it saddens me. It really saddens me to see that happen. There were so many options that could have been taken, and there's so many people that were surrounding her that should have seen this coming. I believe her sister-in-law just spoke out, talking about how truly remarkable a person she was, but nobody gave her that lifeline. And there are lifelines out there, and it's unfortunate that it ended this way.
Right, you're so right. Beautifully said, Mario. Thank you for that. Now, on the heels of her death, our thoughts, of course, are going to other survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's disgusting criminal behavior. And we know that Virginia Giuffre kind of became the face of the survivors. She was the one who was unafraid to speak out and was taking what happened to her and turning, that tragedy into triumph. And during Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, there was one survivor who described the power of Epstein and many like him and what they have over their victims. Let's take a listen to how this was put.
My involvement with them lasted several years. I would try and get out of their view and try and get away from them. But every time I did, they found me. And it became so desperate that I started changing jobs. I changed apartments, cities, states, and even after all that, they found me.
Oh, my. Dr. Debbie, let me go to you here, please. The impact on other survivors, what do you think that is, please?
I would like to think, Julie, that in spite of this terrible, sad ending, that Ms. Giuffre will be admired, respected, appreciated among other victims, not only the 80 of whom, and those numbers could be much more than that, who were involved in the horrendous Epstein case, but just moving forward, victims who might experience this type of behavior and victimization will be able to, as you said so graciously, turn the tragedy into triumph and use the criminal justice system to their benefit and use their voice and your segments on the voice for victims, that it's going to be so important moving forward for that message to be upheld.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Dr. Debbie Goodman. And you also mentioned this earlier. We'll say it again for everyone at home. 988 is the number, the National Suicide Hotline. It's always open. Call if you or someone you love is struggling. We have to say goodbye to our friend Mario Gallucci. He's got a big day in court. Mario, thank you for your time and insight. We'll see you soon. Tommy Pope and Dr. Debbie are coming with us. Please do the same at home. When we come back, we're talking about whether a serial killer may be on the loose right now in New England. Residents are concerned this morning after multiple bodies are showing up across 3 different states. And we've got an insider, someone who's been on the ground there, here to weigh in. And could some new details about what happened the night of the Idaho student murders tip the scales of justice in the trial of Brian Koberger? Welcome back. This morning, we're shining a spotlight on the New England region as a serial killer may be at work. An 8th body was recently discovered there. According to reports, the remains have been found since March in Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. And while law enforcement has not yet confirmed the serial killer theory, the fear continues growing each time a new body's discovered. The Hampton, Massachusetts district attorney issued a statement saying in part, quote, while online conversations around these incidents continue to grow, we urge the public to be mindful of the role that social media can play in spreading fear or misinformation. At this time, there's no indication that these incidents are connected to each other or are part of a larger public safety threat. So what is going on there? Well, to help us answer some of those questions, we want to bring in now someone who's been following this case very closely, is on the ground there. Let's bring in our friend, nationally known radio host and the creator and host of the show Road Patrol Live, John DePietro. John, good morning to you. Share with us, if you would, please, some of the areas where you've been and the things that you've learned while on the ground there, please.
Julie, I can tell you right now that this is almost becoming like a full-fledged panic. And as you said, every time a body is discovered, people immediately link it to and think that it could be the work of a serial killer. I've been on the ground for 3 of the different searches. And what I mean by that is it's someone that's discovering human remains, whether it's a hiker, someone just out in the woods, you had a situation of a hunter. But this online presence, the groups of people, that's what's really fueling it. I think I've also discovered, Julie, something, as you know, whenever there's an investigation, police are pretty tight-lipped and don't say anything. As a result of that, social media, many of the people interested in the possibility of a serial killer, they take that as just free will to then run with it. There's something else at play here, and that is the amount of self-harm cases. Police are not in the business of revealing if they locate a body and there was self-harm done, and that's out of respect to the individual, to the family. The silence of the police, and I'm not knocking the police or criticizing them, but people are interpreting that as police are hiding something. So the video that you're showing right now, that was a very extensive search. FBI, Homeland Security was involved for 2 days. There was the body of Heather Bosford that was dug up. And then also there's another missing person case, Michelle Romano. Her remains were found in late March, right on the Rhode Island-Connecticut border. And then just 10 days later, more human remains were found on the Connecticut side. Now, Michelle, we had been working that case as a missing persons case since the fall. It's still unclear exactly how her body ended up there. Police have said that it was a death of suspicious nature. But where things really went to the next level, there's an area of Narragansett, Rhode Island called Black Point. And in this group, New England serial killers, an anonymous poster, and people always have to be careful of these anonymous posters in some of these groups, they posted that there were, in fact, bodies buried at Black Point. It's right near Scarborough Beach in Narragansett. As a result of that, law enforcement went out there for 2 days with the canines. I was speaking with the police. They said, John, if you go live, this is going to blow this thing open and it's going to flame it up. So we were able to get some footage. But right now, and I want to emphasize this for the public, Julie, the police have not confirmed any link. But make no mistake about it. People are definitely on edge. It is unusual.
Right.
But something else I want to point out to people is a lot of people that are unhoused, homeless, they gather by the water. And a lot of times they have a drug problem, they have an alcohol problem. So now, whenever there could be just a homeless person who falls into the water, tragically drowns, every time a body is washing up, people immediately start thinking it's the serial killer at work again. So I think it's a combination. It is unusual about all these bodies that are being found. Whenever you have someone found in a shallow grave, like a missing person case I was working, Charlotte Lester, and then they did find her body in a shallow grave back in November, certainly that's very alarming, and there's a large number of women. But I think the key right now is police are not making any connection.
Right. This is really helpful, John. Tell me, in terms of what we know about these victims, do we know if they're all female victims?
See, that's the thing. Most of them are. But for instance, there was someone found in Pawtucket in the river. He had fallen. We don't know what exactly happened. A boat found him, but he was a male. Most of them seemingly are women. I'll say that. And it is, people need to understand in New England, it's not that far. So you really have 3 different states, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. Most of the victims are women over the age of 40. But people should understand this is not an example of maybe someone, a hitchhiker, not that anyone does that anymore or anything like that. There's all different circumstances that have first led the women to be announced that they were missing, and then the human remains being found.
Sure.
I spoke with the police, and they told me this is not a tipster. You have people that, especially this time of year, like to get out and hike and walk. Back in the fall, with 2 of the bodies that were found, it was hunters that had found them that had been out. But right now, again, I want to caution the public, any talk of the serial killer, it is being driven online. I get asked about it every single day. A police officer just asked me about a half hour ago. But right now, they don't have the classic signs of there have been situations, maybe someone picks up prostitutes or some forth and then takes them out or things like that. These seem to be all different circumstances. And I also caution people, as one police officer said to me, if in fact they do arrest someone, this could come into play with reasonable doubt if someone floats out, hey, it's not me, it's that serial killer out there.
Right. That's another great point, John. John, such great video that you've shared with our network, where we're seeing so many people at work at the various sites where you've been when they're finding these bodies. Last question, please, and I know we have to let you go and get into the courtroom in Massachusetts because you're also covering the Karen Read case. You cover so many different cases, but in this one in particular, I would imagine, are your law enforcement sources telling you that they're working together, these 3 states where the various bodies have been found? Are they all kind of working in conjunction to make sure information is being properly transported?
Good question. And the answer is, they weren't, but they're starting to because of the amount of furor that's going on online. And they realize they need to all be on the same page.
Right. It's key making sure everyone is communicating, as you know, transmitting that information. And gosh, let's hope it's not a serial killer at work. John DePietro, stay safe out there. We'll look forward to talking with you about the Karen Read cases. You're one of the members of the media who's going to be having a seat in the courtroom this week. So we'll look forward to bringing you back on that case. Thank you for the great video and always great work with your show, Road Patrol Live. My friends at home, check it out. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, here's what's next.
911 location of your emergency. Something is happening. Something's happened in our house. We don't know what.
New details on what happened the night of the Idaho student murders. And we're getting ready to go into the courtroom in Massachusetts for more testimony in the retrial of Karen Read.
This week on Opening Statements.
The murder retrial of Karen Read, breaking down the strategy from both sides before we take you into the courtroom each day.
Opening Statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
How do you explain it? Two teenagers, they go from zero to the worst crime anyone can imagine.
I'm done with this interview. Let me out.
Interview with a Killer. New episode, Sunday at 8 on Court TV.
Now for what's tipping the scales, some big developments in the Idaho student murders case. First up, a judge has ruled that the death penalty is a possible penalty for Brian Kohberger if he's convicted of killing those 4 University of Idaho students. We're also getting some new information about what was happening in the house when those students were killed. So we know that housemate Dylan Mortensen heard some strange noises and crying, and she reported seeing a man dressed in a black ski mask, wearing all dark clothing, walking through the house with bushy eyebrows. She then placed some calls and some texts to her other roommates. Now, the only roommate that she could get hold of was Bethany Funk, whose room was on the ground floor of that house. At 4:15 a.m., Dylan ran to Bethany's room, and on their way there, she noticed Xana Kernodle on the floor of her bedroom with her head toward the wall and her feet toward the door. Now, Dylan told investigators that she thought that Xana was just laying on the floor drunk. Now, we know that is not what happened. Let's stop right there and talk about this. Let's bring back in criminology expert Dr. Debbie Goodman and former prosecutor Tommy Pope. So that bit of information that Dylan Mortensen goes by Xana's room, sees her lying there on the floor, doesn't think anything of it, doesn't realize that she's been stabbed, thinks she's drunk. What does that do to the case, if anything? Dr. Debbie, your thoughts?
Well, my hope, Julie, is that Dylan and Bethany won't continue to be traumatized by the criminal justice system. I know individuals may say the woulda, shoulda, coulda of what could have happened, should have, and such at that moment in time. But again, we can't imagine any college student in a circumstance such as that thinking that 1 to potentially 4 roommates have been stabbed to death in this horrendous crime. So I don't think necessarily it will move the needle either way. I just think that what should happen is that both of the roommates will give the fact-based testimony as they knew it to be, and that should be enough.
Great points, Dr. Debbie. Tommy Pope, tell me, is this at all concerning for prosecutors in your view?
I don't think so. I agree with Dr. as far as the she's a victim too, even though fortunately she wasn't stabbed. I think the pundits and all these people on the internet that sling opinions and don't care who it hurts, need to think if it was your child in that similar circumstance, what they might have recalled or not recalled. I mean, you should just be embracing the fact that some of them lived, that this child lived. And so from a prosecution standpoint, if they try to put these victims on trial, and I'm including the ones that survived, I think that's a tragic mistake on the defense side. They've got to put their efforts toward that my guy didn't do it versus, sometimes you put the witnesses on trial as you've seen the Read case and others, but I think that would be a tragic mistake. And so for this, I think it's just I think sadly, the more difficult part for this young lady, as the doctor said, woulda, coulda, shoulda, you can't do that because at the end of the day, their action or inaction is not what caused this. The defendant, or he's innocent until proven guilty, but whoever committed this crime is who is ultimately at the fault, not these girls or guys that lived there.
Oh, excellent points, Tommy. Thank you for that. I want to pick up with you both where we left off. So we know several hours later, after passing Xana's room at 11:15 a.m., Dylan Mortensen called a friend asking her to come over to the house because they were scared. So she came over with her boyfriend, who grabbed a knife from the kitchen. Dylan, Bethany, and the boyfriend all started walking up the stairs to the second floor. They saw Xana again on the floor. This time the boyfriend tells everyone to get out. They all got out of the house and they called 911. So at this point, they realize some of the extent of what happened on that dreadful morning. Dr. Debbie Goodman, I can't imagine being these college students and coming upon such a gruesome scene, and what you were just talking about, the trauma and what that does to one's psyche. Would you speak to that, please?
Right, Julie. It's so traumatic and devastating. I can assure you, even in class with my students, when we look quickly at photos of crime scenes and the students look away and they're shocked, and it's terribly disturbing. So I would also agree with Tommy's point, excellent point, about even the survivors are still victims because these are their friends, these are their roommates, these are their fellow colleagues that they enjoy and love. And we can't expect, the exact right approaches when somebody comes into a horrendous crime scene. It's just not on anybody's radar or wheelhouse, except for those of us who are directly in the field and have the training and education to know how to handle it. So again, I think these roommates and friends just did the best that they could, and yes, the trauma that they are experiencing as secondary victims could also be just a terrible daily issue that they too are contending with.
This is really important. Now, Dr. Debbie, thank you so much for that. Tommy Pope, I want to end with a big legal decision the court made and get your thoughts on it, that the death penalty stays on the table as a possible punishment. The defense wanted it to be removed as a possibility because of Brian Kohberger's autism diagnosis. Was it the right ruling the court made?
I absolutely think so. It's a bifurcated trial. The penalty phase is when you can bring that in, and I'm sure they will in defense, but, that doesn't change the guilt or the potential for this penalty, and I don't think autism is going to be enough if he's convicted to keep him from death row.
Your opinion means so much, Tommy. As we know, there are only a handful of lawyers who do try death penalty cases and have done so, and you are one of them. You need particular qualifications, and you certainly have done a tremendous job when you were serving as solicitor in South Carolina and bringing justice to all of the members of the state. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to leave it there for now on Brian Kohberger and hit a break as we're getting ready for Court TV Live. Tommy Pope, you're able to come with us, and we're so grateful for that. Dr. Debbie Goodman, big thank you to you for everything, and thanks to you at home for watching. Watch the episode again, share it, go to courttv.com to do that. Click on the shows tab.